Hello and welcome. My name is Maria Kliavkoff, and I'm the president of Waterton-Glacier International Peace Park Association, and this is my October message. And I thought maybe what I would do is just a little scrapbook show and tell of pictures of our recent assembly. So for those of you who were with us, this may be just a lovely trip down memory lane, and for others, it's an opportunity for you to see what we were up to in Waterton and maybe decide that you really want to be with us in Glacier next September, because we do this once a year and we go back and forth between Waterton and Glacier. And this was our year in Waterton. It was actually our first year back in Waterton since COVID. So it was lovely to be together, and we were almost back to pre-pandemic numbers. So that's kind of lovely. When we meet here at the Waterton Community Center, and you can see what a beautiful building it is. And this lawn is actually the lawn that we do the Hands Across the Border ceremony on the final Sunday. But this particular assembly, we started early. We had a number of pre-events on Thursday and Friday, so I want to just touch on some of those events. Starting with, this was our crew for cleaning up and preparing the Rotary Peace Garden in Waterton. This is a brand new garden. It's a project that we worked very hard on. The gentleman who's sitting in the middle here, Terry Allen, is the person who was at the helm of this garden and bringing it all together. And we're very grateful to Terry for all of his hard work. And Terry sent out a thank you to each and every individual in this picture, and I'm very grateful for your beautiful thank you, Terry, to all of us. The truth is, we as a group managed to create a really beautiful looking garden heading into the Peace Pole dedication ceremony, which happened. Oops, I'm getting a little happy with my clicker finger there. So again, this is Terry, and now you're going to see Terry speaking to everybody at the Peace Pole dedication. This is actually not the final destination of where this pole is going to go, but for right now, we planted it here. Eventually, there will actually be a bench here, and if you can see kind of off the tip of the Peace Pole, you can see just over the tip here, this is all in the shadow of the Prince of Wales Hotel, which is, of course, where the meeting of Rotarians happened in 1931, where a Rotarian said, where no boundaries can be seen, no boundaries should be. And from that point on, Rotarians took up the conversation with the US government and the Canadian government. And by 1932, the first ever international peace park in the world was dedicated in East Glacier. So this was a peace pole dedication, and we are committed to planting a minimum of 100 peace poles. And now we're looking at, instead of 100 in the 4 districts, actually doing 100 in each of the 4 districts of District 5080, 5360, 5370, and 5390. These are the 4 districts of the Waterton-Glacier International Peace Park Association. And we want to plant those poles prior to our 100th anniversary, which will be in 2031, 2032. So this is a picture of everybody who is at the dedication ceremony on Thursday. It was a lovely time that we had, and then following that, we went off to fellowship. Kilmore Lodge did a lovely job of kind of cordoning off the pub for us, and we had a lovely visit with everybody. But the Peace Pole dedication ceremony is always a very special thing, and we end our Peace Pole dedications with the Pledge of Peace. So it was a real honor to be doing that in Waterton. This is a long view of the park, and I'm going to see if I can maybe make it a little larger for you here so that you can see how it truly is in the shadow of the Prince of Wales Hotel. So you can actually see the windows up front, and these are the windows of the lounge area, which are really big windows that look out onto the lake. If you want to see the view from there, I actually posted it on our Facebook page, so I invite you to go and take a look at the Waterton-Glacier International Peace Park Association Facebook page. This pole is actually eventually destined to go to boundary, because there's going to be a limestone pole that will be placed right here. What's going to go here, as I said before, there's going to be a bench here, but also there are going to be boulders in each one of these 3, and then there's a 4th loop back here, there's going to be a boulder with a peace quote from each of the 4 districts involved in Waterton-Glacier Peace Park Association. So that's what eventually this park or this garden will be. And, we really appreciate that it's a direct interface with the people who are parking at the marina. This is overflow parking for the marina. But, peace happens in the interface with our everyday activities. And so I think it's very important that this peace garden be right there where you park your cars. Because these reflective places are very important in our everyday world. And so we're very honored to have this garden and for all the work that has happened. On Friday, we took another peace pole and we did a peace pole dedication at Goat Haunt. Goat Haunt is the U.S. landing on the far side of the lake. This is past President Ed Handel, who was one of our speakers on that day, and Ed gave a beautiful talk, and actually I videotaped part of that talk, and I've put that also on Facebook, and I'm also going to upload it onto our YouTube channel. So if you haven't yet visited our YouTube channel or our Facebook page, I invite you to go there and like and subscribe and all those good things, because that increases our algorithms around it, but it also helps you to see what we're up to, which is quite fun. So as we were leaving on the boat, I took this picture because it's so clear, the peace pole is right there. So whether you come up onto the Peace Pavilion or you go walking around, you access the hike back to Waterton, or you go up to the customs office, wherever you're going, the peace pole is going to be right there. This is a temporary location for this peace pole. This peace pole is also destined for boundary. It will face the other peace pole, and a permanent peace pole will be placed here once renovations are complete, because there are going to be renovations to the Peace Pavilion to make it wheelchair accessible. And so this is just a temporary pole, just as the other one is a temporary pole, and both will meet each other at boundary. And speaking of boundary, we had a bunch of wonderful participants who decided they wanted to hike back to Waterton. The rest of us took the boat back, but these were our hikers. And when they got back to boundary, so you can see here the cut line right here, and there's a cut line on the other side as well. They decided to take the peace pledge in between the cairns along the boundary. And so this is a very special photo for us. On the right side here, this would be the US side, and on the left side here, this would be the Canadian side. Waterton is to the left here, and Goat Haunt is to the right at the end of the lake. The next day, we began with our talks and the formal portion of our assembly, which includes both the Board of Directors meeting in the morning and then our annual AGM. The AGM, I want to remind Rotarians from any one of the 4 districts, 5360, 5370, 5390, or 5080. If you are a Rotarian in good standing in any one of these 4 districts, you are a voting member of Waterton-Glacier International Peace Park Association. You have representatives on the director board, but at the AGM, it's your votes that matter. So we really do want to see you out in East Glacier next year. So our speakers here, we've got Fran Leggett, and Fran was wonderful. She gave us a talk about the history of Waterton, and she helped us to understand the history of how the park came to be and who the key players were in that. It's very important for us, as we're going to our 100-year anniversary, that we honor and that we celebrate our history. And so we're very, very grateful for that. Next to her, we have the Right Honorable, now I have to find his name on my piece of paper, isn't that horrible? The Right Honorable John Barlow, who's the MP for Foothills. He actually gave a greeting to us at our gala on the evening of Saturday. To the right of him is Cam Stewart, gave a wonderful talk on cultivating relationships with Indigenous communities. We know that we need to do more work to connect with and engage with our Indigenous brothers and sisters. And we do believe, as they believe, that we are all the relations, right? We are all the relations one another. And so Cam did a wonderful job of reminding us of that. He gave us an opportunity to smudge at the beginning of his talk. It was just a beautiful talk, and we're very grateful to him. Next to him, we have Jenny Fike. Jenny gave us Tales from the Great Divide. So she was an instrumental part of creating the Great Divide Trail, which actually begins at Boundary and moves towards Waterton. That's the first kilometers on the Great Divide Trail that goes all the way up into the Yukon, I believe. And she just did a lovely job with introducing us to the history of how that trail came into being. She also was the lead on the hike back to Waterton, so all of the hikers got some really wonderful, inspiring information from her. To the right of Jenny is Locke Marshall. Locke is the superintendent of Waterton National Lakes Park. Waterton Lakes National Park. He's also the superintendent for Bayou Ranch National Historic Site. And Locke reported to us during the AGM, as both superintendents do. He reminded us of something very important that happened in August of this year, which is there was a re-signing of the Memorandum of Agreement between the two countries, the US and Canada, and it happened in Waterton. It was renewed. The last time it was renewed was 25 years ago, so it's a very important thing that it got renewed. It covered 16 areas of cooperation. It was a wonderful report that Locke gave us, and certainly something that we all celebrated. Next to him is Dave Romer. Dave is the superintendent for Glacier National Park, and Dave gave us a report on Glacier. And as I said, during our AGM, we're just honored to have both of these gentlemen come and speak to us about what's happening in the parks. Now, the reality is, because COVID kind of became the focus of the story, very quickly, right on the heels of the fires that happened, former Superintendent Jeff Mao, who's at the end here, came and spoke to us about what ended up happening with the fires, because we never got the final reports on what happened with the fires and how buildings were being restored and are being restored. And we were so grateful to hear from him, because he was certainly the man in the trenches at the time. A year ago, he retired and Dave took over the reins at Glacier National Park. And I am very glad to be able to let you know that Jeff Mao is one of our newest directors on the Waterton-Glacier International Peace Park Association board, because Jeff is a Rotarian from District for 5390. So he is our newest representative of 5390, and we're so thrilled to have him on the board of directors. This is a picture of Jeff with our 6 Rotaract students who came down for the day. This is in front of Peace Plaza. And we had 4 Rotaract students from Lethbridge and 2 Rotaract students from Calgary. We were very honored to have them here for the day. This is a picture of me with them just prior to the gala. They ended up having to leave before the gala was over, basically because they had long drives home, but we were so grateful to them. It was also my great pleasure during our AGM that one of these 6 intrepid souls seconded a nomination from District 5370. We have the newest director from 5370, who is a Rotaract student herself. So we now have a Rotaract student on our board of directors, and we're thrilled to have that as well. This is a picture of our volunteers. Of course, none of this could have happened without our volunteers, and we're so grateful to all of them. But I wanted to show this picture of Irene Fury, who just kind of did everything she could whenever she could. She filled in all of the gaps, and she was just beyond brilliant. She's holding up a t-shirt that was donated to us by District 5390, the proceeds of which we will use for our action teams and the activities that we do. We sold many of these shirts while we were at assembly, and the shirt is the picture of the Rotary wheel, and it says below it the new peace symbol. So the Rotary wheel is, of course, the new peace symbol, and they're wonderful t-shirts. So just thank you to Irene for all that she did to sell the t-shirts and to make sure everybody knew where they were going and what they needed to be doing. As always, we had our golf tournament, and it was a pretty rainy day. So there were those of us who took the boat down to Goat Haunt, did the peace dedication, and then some who did the hike back, others who took the boat back. Meanwhile, others of us were on the golf course. And so we had the trophy presented for the best female and male. And unfortunately, we didn't have the trophy for the male, so we're still looking for that. And we're going to be getting that to him just as soon as we can. Thank you to Alan Johnson for organizing the golf tournament. You did a wonderful job. This was a very special award that was given out at the night of the gala. Nadine, for those of you who don't know Nadine Parker, she is a remarkable human being. She was not a director a year ago, and then she stepped into a directorship when a director stepped up into the executive position. And then we had somebody at the executive position who needed to step down. And so she said, put me in, coach. And she became the chair of the Peace Action team. And then she became U.S. Treasurer. And when our Vice President, Bill Dunwoody, had to step down for personal reasons, the decision was made that he and Nadine would switch places, and Nadine would step into the vice president's position. She is the definition of service before self. All of us who were there for the weekend witnessed her and her husband, Sonny, showing feats of strength beyond what we could possibly say. I mentioned before that the Peace Pavilion is being, there's going to be a renovation done to make sure that it is wheelchair accessible. However, it is not right now. And what these two people did to ensure that they were there for the Peace Pole celebration was nothing short of miraculous. For this and everything that she does in District 5080 and for the Waterton-Glacier International Peace Park Association, I awarded her with a Paul Harris +3, which kind of says everything, that she's at a +3. And no sooner had I mentioned her name than there was a standing ovation. And to have over 100 people just jump to their feet, that tells you something about this very special lady. I am thrilled that she's stepping in as vice president, and I look forward to her presidency. I will be president for another year, and then she will be president for the 2 years after that. Our keynote speaker for the evening was this wonderful gentleman. It was really very special to have Craig Davidson from Rick Steves Europe. Craig is the COO of Rick Steves Europe, and what he was talking about was climate smart commitment, which is a trademark of Rick Steves Europe. It's a self-imposed carbon tax that they do because they feel passionately that those people who are impacted by effects of travel need to be given grants so that they can find what works for them in their own communities. And the projects that they have funded, we got to hear about. It's really quite remarkable. If you have questions about this, I encourage you to go visit ricksteves.com to learn more about the climate smart commitment. This company is really doing some remarkable things to ensure that we are good custodians of this planet and this place that we call home. And then after a day full of sitting and talking, it was so important that we get up and move. And it was so wonderful to have Herky Cutler, a former Rotarian and somebody who has been an integral part of Hands Across the Border ceremonies in the past, lead us in song. And Nadine had asked Herky to please make sure the first song that he sings is Peace Train, and he did such a beautiful job of that. It's because Peace Train is kind of our signature song. And here you can see we were just cutting loose and having some fun. I was actually on the dance floor, except for when I grabbed my camera to take a picture of this, so I was behind the camera on this one. But it was just a great fun evening. The next day, we came together for the Hands Across the Border celebration. Prior to the Hands Across the Border celebration, I don't have a picture here of this. We did a workshop, which was a reflection of how we are all ministers of peace. And as I mentioned before, there are 4 quotes that will be going on those boulders in the Peace Garden. The 4 quotes were decided by the peace committees of the 4 different districts. So from 5360, the quote is, "It is what we have hungered for, not just the absence of war, but true peace." That's an excerpt from a Maya Angelou poem, and that quote will go on one of the boulders in the Peace Garden. From 5370, a quote from current RI President Gordon McInally, "Building peace is the essence of Rotary." From District 5390, a Jimi Hendrix quote, "When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace." And from District 5080, a quote from past RI President Barry Razin, "Peace happens one conversation at a time." So in our time together, just after breakfast and before the Hands Across the Border ceremony, what we did was a little workshop where we explored, what do those 4 quotes really mean to us? And some amazing things came forward, and I'm really thrilled that we're going to be capturing all of that information into a document, and that document will be our message to people 100 years from now. It'll be like a time capsule, but it won't be put in a time capsule. It's actually going to be put in a document that will be connected to the QR code that will be placed, and right now there is a QR code already placed on the 2 peace poles that we dedicated. So we're going to add this document to the QR code so that for future generations, they can understand what we thought we meant when we placed these quotes in the garden, and we can ask them to reflect on, what do these quotes mean to them? As I said before, we then went on to the Hands Across the Border ceremony, which is a very special ceremony. This is actually my favorite picture from the dais. This was a very special moment because the person who's speaking here is Darren Cahoon, the Superintendent Operations Branch, Canada Border Services Agency. And what he talked about with the people who were on either side of the tape, so this is the tape becomes a mock border or boundary, and then we ask the Canadians to be on one side of the tape and the Americans to be on the other side of the tape. And if you're from another country, to choose a side of the tape, and then to take hands and look into each other's eyes as you take the peace pledge. And what happened here is Darren just basically said that the peace that exists right here in this moment, this is the peace that he likes to carry home with him to the border in his job. And it was just a really moving moment. So with this, I invite you to come to next year's Peace Assembly. The Waterton-Glacier International Peace Park Association Assembly will happen September 21st to the 24th. It will be at East Glacier Lodge, and we hope to see you there because you want to be a part of this. This I promise you. I look forward to speaking with you next month. Until then, have a blessed and safe month for our Canadian friends. Happy Thanksgiving to you all, and we'll speak to you in November. Namaste.